Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa. After an engaging and fun season, we've come to the finale of the Great Debaters Contest Season 4. With over 100 schools participating, the contest culminates with two finalists, Strathmore School and UTUMISHI Academy, battling it out for the title, The Great Debaters. We also find out which student will be crowned the Great Debater. Stay tuned to the Great Debaters Contest.
Africa is blessed in so many ways. Minerals, be it land, be it water, be it population. So by that logic, we should be the most developed continent on earth. We should be the pace setter for the rest of the world. But that is not the case. So today we are asking, is Africa its own greatest enemy? Are our natural resources perhaps our greatest undoing?
UTUMISHI Boys Academy and Strathmore School. A battle that will be highly and heightenedly watched in the television.
The first proposer, you have 3 minutes.
I am Valiant Waki. What is a natural resource? A natural resource is a material or a substance like minerals and forests and water and fertile land that can be used to make money, that can be used for economic betterment. And note, they are found in nature. So obviously that disqualifies things like agriculture and pastoralism as being natural resources. So why do I think that natural resources made me wear this tie? This is the thing. This is the story of Africa. Let's backtrack a bit to the late 19th century, about 1850 to 1900. I want to quote Margaret Ogola, who has written an amazing set book. It's called The River and the Source. And in The River and the Source, she says, indeed, Yimbo was a small corner of paradise. So let's stay in Yimbo and let's have fun, which obviously isn't how it is right now. Insecurity is rising in Africa. Wars are being started because of these very things that we call our own. What makes us the richest continent in the world? They're killing us. The 11-year war in Sierra Leone, 70,000 people died because of fighting for control of mines. We cannot say that these things are helping us if they are killing us so much. And here's another way that they're not helping us. Colonialism started because of these resources. Here's a bit of a story of Europe. In Europe, at some point, people realized, why are we still making things by hand? Let's make machines. They made machines, they made factories, and what happened as a result was their resources got depleted. But then rumors started about this amazing continent, the Dark Continent. So the Dark Continent had vast mineral resources, which they needed for their industries. So let's go colonize. And colonize they did. That's why I'm wearing this tie. If colonialists hadn't come, I would be in a loinskin. But because of these natural resources and all the problems that have been caused by colonialism, it's only the natural resources to blame, really. And where will we find a solution? What is the solution?
I will now have the opposition. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Philip Ofula from UTUMISHI Academy. Well, Yimbo, places I am yet to visit or yet to see, or yet to determine if are of fictitious nature. I am actually not sure we should find that admissible in such context. The Sierra Leone War, 1991, took 11 years, and in truth, I have watched a movie, The Hunting at Connecticut. Now, it portrays Connecticut as a demon-infested place. It is what we are depicting Africa as. Because of these evils that have been seen to arise out of the natural resources, then we are saying Africa is the Connecticut. But in my research with regard to the same, I have found that despite this movie and the pictorial representation of such a place, Connecticut is actually quite beautiful. So what am I saying? The natural resources are a source of economic revenue for Africa. We must acknowledge that fact. For instance, to consider that Africa is yet to grow in terms of its secondary and tertiary sectors. And as such, much of the continent's economy revolves around its primary sector and its activities. These are, for instance, resource extraction and natural resources as painted by the proposers, our demon in question. Now, these natural resources have been seen to actually bring forth good fruits, or if I am to say then, economic growth in certain places. For instance, diamond-rich Botswana in the BBC report, Africa, has been praised as a country that is doing things right. You will find that it has also managed to actually harness 56% of its profits. That is related to the export or in any other manner selling of the diamond and that commodity. Therefore, these high commodity priced items can be used to actually gain Africa good instead of looking at them as the demons that face us. Equally, abundant natural resources can be the driver of industrial revolution in Africa. For example, Africa stands as of now to contribute 12% of the world's actually oil reserves, and equally 40% of the world's gold, and to a highly notable number, 90% of the world's chromium. So being that Africa, in my personal definition, is the world's second largest continent, I try to imagine without our natural resources, and it being that we contribute, for instance, just to say 90% uranium, that is worldwide. So if Africa had or did not have these resources, then where do we stand to be? So the problem actually is not our natural resources, but the problem lies within how we look at these things. If we were to change our perception socially, then we are sure that Africa will grow even with these natural resources. Thank you.
Rebuttals, beginning with the proposition. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Jesse Mwangi, and I am from Strathmore School. Now, something really important has been said about how Africa has the potential to mine these resources. But what is a resource if it does not earn you money? What is a resource if you cannot utilize it? Africa does not mine its own resources. It is mined by foreign companies. Example, tallow oil, not Kenyan, not African. Now, Botswana is an isolated case, and I'm going to give you examples of other countries in different parts of the world that have succeeded without resources. Let's take a look at Singapore. Yes, one of the 4 Asian tigers. It is said to be one of the best and the fastest growing economies. Why? Well, Singapore produces most of the world's technology. Yes, that iPad you may have, that phone you may have, may indeed, or has a greater chance of being from Singapore. And the surprising thing is that Singapore's GDP is 847.6 billion US dollars. Now, Kenya and Singapore got independence in 1963. We gave them a developmental loan. Now, they are better than us. Kenya's GDP is 44.1 billion US dollars. But Kenya is not bad, because Kenya is actually coming to our side of, it's coming to our view of this logic, because Kenya recently reevaluated its economy, and it was ranked a middle economy. Why? Mobile money. That's not a natural resource, is it? This M-Pesa, this technology has made Kenya actually be recognized more. You see, when Kenya did this reevaluation, we have seen greater things. If Kenya is a middle-class economy, that's amazing. That's not natural resources. Kenya is doing well, not because of resources. Now let's go to Israel. Israel is a country that is in a desert. Israel does not have any natural resources of its own. Yet, Israel's per capita volume capital is of $2 billion. Israel has 2.5 more per capita volume capital than the US, 30 times that of Europe, 80 times that of China, and 30 times that of India. It does not have natural resources. What are they telling us? I can't believe this. If they are succeeding so well, why should we consider natural resources? Thank you.
Opposition, you also have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I am Brian Munaita from UTUMISHI Boys Academy, and I wish to ask Jesse, by showing us countries that have succeeded without natural resources, how is that showing African countries suffering from the resources that they have? Now, we must understand that just as the human body cannot function without water, a country is not a country without a resource, preferably a natural resource. For example, we have the case of Sudan. It's split into North and South Sudan. Why? South Sudan had oil. Yes, oil was a natural resource, so it had somewhere to generate income to feed its people, and it knew it had the potential to be a country. Why? It had a resource. A country is basically its resource. There is no country that has no resource. Now, Africa has the highest level of poverty rates in the world. 40% of sub-Saharan Africans, according to a UN report, live below the poverty line. Now, how do these natural resources help us alleviate the poverty? In Malawi, for example, 650,192 pounds from their mining industry was injected back to the poor people of their nation, and they were able to pay each citizen in the poorest states $14 per month. This enabled them to live above the poverty line. They got meals every day. They were able to feed themselves. So you cannot tell me that we are worse off with our natural resources when it's helping alleviate poverty. Nothing else has that capacity. Not even Bill Gates with all his millions will make every single African rich. Now, natural resources create employment. Even if they are mined by foreign companies, as my friends say, they forget that constitutionally, in every country, if mining is to be done by a foreign company, the foreign company should employ the people of that country, the people who host that mineral. It is the same in titanium mining in Kwale. It is the same. They are hiring Kenyans. Now, take the example of Nigeria. Shell company, it drills oil in Nigeria, and they hire over 6,000 employees, 90% of whom are Nigerians, and they pay them higher than the gross domestic product per capita. Therefore, this increases the economic level of those workers, and it boosts the economy. Why? The people have purchasing power. Thus, it is preposterous to say that we are worse off with our resources. Now, according to the economist Paul Collier, African resource reserves are greatly underestimated. Why? Africa is on average 47 years old. That is from the time each country got independence. Now, if you look at countries the proposers are telling us, like Israel, they are over, it's even in the Bible, it's past AD, it's past BC, man. Now, that cannot give us a valid comparison. Africa has not been given time to have its resources explored. There's so much more waiting. 48% of gold coming from Africa, 90% of chromium coming from Africa, and as Waswahili would say, Nabado, we still have more potential to help ourselves with these resources. So I believe that Africa would be nothing without its natural resources. Thank you.
This is about Safaricom and M-Pesa, the collabo that fell in love with Kenya. Make my life easier. Water bill, M-Pesa. Electric bill, M-Pesa. Mama Mboga bill, M-Pesa. And my school fees, M-Pesa. M-Pesa, M-Pesa, M-Pesa. They call me Mr. M-Pesa.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap, or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
My name is Susan from Saregas, and my question goes to the first proposer. Industrialization requires natural resources. That is why we, people of the dark continent as you've called it, were colonized. So by saying that we are better without these resources, are you trying to imply that we should live in the Stone Age period?
Opposing team, questions for them now.
From Kahuya Girls High School, Wanjoy Remo. And the question is, you said Sudan split into North and South. So these resources are causing successions in countries and civil wars. Is this what we want?
The third proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
My name, Ron Kipchumba. I would like to start off by answering the questions posed. Stone Age. What is your definition of the Stone Age? The life my grandparents lived and ancestors lived, that is not the Stone Age. If anything, I wouldn't mind living like that. Now, we have been told of lovely figures by the opposers about gold in South Africa. Let's go there, South Africa. We know South Africa as the largest exporter of gold in Africa. Now, that is only half the story. What happens even before we get to the gold? Allow me to recount to you the story of Kobile, a miner. In a book published by the South African Miners Association, he said, and I quote, "At 5 a.m. in the morning, we are deep in the mines. The working conditions are abysmal. The mines are more than 1 kilometer into the ground. We have no oxygen masks. We have not enough lighting. Our equipment is poor. We even have to carry the ores with our bare hands." Furthermore, in the same book, 100,000 deaths were estimated between 2000 and 2008. Environmental damage caused by mining. In statistics carried out by Green Africa Foundation, 3.4 million acres of land have been cleared to make way for mines. Now, we all know of the importance of trees. Now, what are the solutions that we offer? One, innovation. As talked about by my colleagues, M-Pesa, industrialization. Kenya, for instance, our biggest earner of GDP is industries, followed by agriculture and mining. Mining being third clearly shows that we do not need resources. Tax. The Cayman Islands is 230 kilometers squared. Of that, 2.3% is fertile land. The GDP of the Cayman Islands is 3.26 billion, not shillings, dollars. 230 kilometers squared. Compare them. Now, necessity is the mother of all invention. This has been demonstrated clearly the world over. Ladies and gentlemen, we are better off without our resources.
The opposition respond to the audience. You also have 3 minutes.
My name is Billy Koech from UTUMISHI Academy. I'd like to ask Ron, where do the industries get their raw materials from? It is from mining, isn't it? Yes. Now, on to the first question. You say that in South Sudan, I believe, the resources caused war. Well, I'd like to say that the problem here is not the natural resources. The problem is leadership, which is in turn in charge of management of the resources. Now, think with me here. Now, for example, Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang, he has ruled the country since 1979 as a dictator. In his regime, he used the oil exports and corruption, which enabled him to make his family one of the wealthiest in Africa. The problem was the leadership here. Remember, for every General Sani Abacha skimming billions of Nigeria's oil wealth, there is a field marshal, Idi Amin, right there in Uganda, massacring Ugandans by the thousands without the aid of a single deposit of uranium. I believe there are remedies to the tiny, tiny problems, which are rather, well, tiny. First, like my colleague said, natural resources are key to development. Well, for the many countries that may have signed, let's say, bad contracts, well, I have one simple solution. Renegotiate. If impossible, impose a windfall profit tax. Well, of course, companies will push back. Some will emphasize the sanctity of contracts. And some will even threaten to, live well, but the outcome is typically otherwise. A good example is Botswana. Now, Botswana's renegotiation of such contracts laid the foundations of its remarkable, growth for the last 4 decades. 4 decades. Now, like I said, the problem here was never the resource. The problem was the leadership. Thank you.
Closing statements. Proposition, you have a minute.
I'm still valiant working, and I'm still feeling sad for my opponents. I can't believe that we are arguing here on the potential of Africa. Africa has the potential to produce 90% of the world's chromium. They have so much gold. This is not about potential. This is about the fact as it is now. We cannot say that because it is a possibility to produce all that wealth, let's just persevere in this, man. Let's just do this. We're suffering, but we can do it, man. Look, people are dying because of these resources. Remember the land issue in the coast right now? Land is a natural resource, and there is such drama going on in the coast right now because of land. People are suffering because of these natural resources. And my opponents have the audacity to say that no, land and other natural resources are the source to economic development. That is rubbish, as we have demonstrated. Singapore, Israel, they have done it without natural resources. We're suffering too much. We can do it without natural resources. We have to do it without natural resources. Thank you.
Opposition, your final remarks. You have 1 minute.
It being trendy, I believe I am still Philip Ofula. Parting is such sweet sorrow. And as a person, I find my affection inclined to Africa. And I'd say that my love for Africa has grown to such excess, I cannot sum up some of half my wealth. Flattery is one of my better arts. So I find myself quite engrossed in flattering my African essence. I do value my continent, and as such, I am willing to give it time to explore what it has to offer me, instead of because of what happened in 1991 or what has been seen to happen a few years ago, and maybe because someone overallocated a piece of land or did this and that. Now, I'd like to give Africa a chance, to give it time to show that its natural resources are not actually its enemy, but can be used for its gain. And as such, I am still in opposition of the motion. Thank you.
"50 years ago, when our continent got independence, around that time, it is young people who came together and fought for independence of our continent. 50 years after, this continent is yearning for its young people like you who are in this room and you who are speaking to again rise up, not in violence or in revolution, but to create a renaissance of the African spirit."
Looking at the level of debate, the mastery of language, your coherency of arguments, the fact that you can articulate issues that not only concern you as a young people, not only concern your country, not only concern the continent, but also concern the world, is something that we can go to bed very happy about at the end of the day. All the best to the two schools.
Strathmore, Valiant, Jesse and Ron, you've not disappointed me. That was excellent, and we are proud of you. Philip, Brian, Koech, the distance that you came all the way from is worth it, and we are not disappointed as well. That was excellent. So all the best to the two teams. I am so proud to be here, to be part and parcel of this, and what you have done is commendable. All the best.
Chinua Achebe wrote a very beautiful book, semi-autobiographical novel, about the trouble with Nigeria. And he addresses the greatest problem, according to him, with Nigeria. And he says there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian air, there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian soil, there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian land. The problem with Nigeria is purely and squarely the failure of leadership.
The problem with Africa is basically leadership. Both teams, good work.
Previously on the Great Debaters Contest, 6 students competed for the title, the Great Debater, but only one of them will walk away with the coveted grand prize. Will it be Valiant Waiyaki from Strathmore School, Frida Murugi from Mary Hill Girls, Muhammad Abdullahi from Light Academy, Grace Washanga from Bishop Gatimu Ngandu Girls, Brian Munaita from UTUMISHI Boys, or Neema Ndeti from Kahuhia Girls? Let's get straight to the results.
This year's great debater is none other than
Drum roll, please.
Muhammad Abdullahi from Light Academy.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for, the winner of the Great Debaters Contest Season 4.
The winner of the Great Debaters Contest is UTUMISHI Academy.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.